Kansas has been the butt of America's geographical jokes for over a century, but in 2003, researchers actually measured Kansas against a pancake, and the pancake won. That same flat state holds 70-foot chalk pyramids made of ancient sea creatures, a prairie more endangered than the Amazon rainforest, and a museum with the actual Apollo 13 capsule. Kansas isn't flat. Nature held a committee meeting and decided Kansas was the perfect place to leave everything it wasn't finished with yet. 10 locations. Number 7 is so insane it has its own fossil record. Let's go. 1. Monument Rocks. 70 feet of white chalk standing like pyramids in the middle of nowhere. Monument Rocks, Kansas's first national natural landmark and one of the most alien landscapes in the Midwest. These formations are 80 million years old, made entirely of compressed sea creature skeletons that sank to the bottom of the western interior seaway, a massive ocean that once split North America in half. You're standing on the floor of a vanished ocean. Paleontologists came here for mosasaur and plesiosaur fossils, giant swimming reptiles that ruled this sea. You can still find fossilized shells and shark teeth weathering out of the chalk after rain. Fun fact, Monument Rocks was voted one of the 8 wonders of Kansas. Planning tip, gravel road only, impassable after rain. No facilities, no cell service. Bring water and a full tank. From the vanished ocean, we trade chalk for impossible clarity. 2. Wilson Lake. The Army Corps of Engineers calls Wilson Lake the clearest lake in Kansas. It looks like something from the Caribbean, if the Caribbean had sandstone cliffs and a decided opinion about personal space. The lake sits in Dakota Formation sandstone, a 100-million-year-old beach deposit from the Cretaceous period, when Kansas had a coastline. That ancient shoreline now filters this water to a clarity you don't expect in a plain state. Locals call the shoreline formations Rock Town, sandstone pillars that look like someone started building a cathedral and got distracted. Leaf fossils nearby signal this area was above sea level 66 to 80 million years ago, meaning this patch of Kansas has been both ocean floor and dry land. Go to Rocktown Marina for clearest access. Avoid summer weekends, boat traffic kills clarity. Morning light is best. From impossible clarity, we trade water for 2,000-pound groundskeepers. 3. Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve. Less than 4% of the original Tallgrass Prairie remains. Once it covered 170 million acres. That makes it more endangered than the Amazon rainforest. The grasses here grow root systems 15 feet deep, taller below ground than they stand above it. When the plow came, it broke that root system in a single afternoon. The bison herd was reintroduced in 2009 from Wind Cave National Park for their genetic diversity. Bison are ecosystem engineers. They graze in patterns that create habitat diversity, wallow to collect rainwater, and cycle nutrients back into soil. They've been doing this job for 10,000 years. They don't know they're conservation workers, they just know the grass is good. Fun fact, a bison can run 35 miles per hour and has no interest in your selfie. Admission is free. Bison are most visible in the early morning. The bottomland trail's first 2 miles get you 90% of sightings. Keep your distance. From 2,000-pound groundskeepers, we trade Prairie for a Swedish village. 4. Lindsborg, Little Sweden. Lindsborg, Kansas. Population 3-something thousand. Settled in 1869 by Swedish immigrants who looked at the Smoky Hill River Valley and decided it reminded them of home. They called it Little Sweden, USA, not as a marketing slogan, but as an identity. Dala horses, the traditional carved Swedish folk symbol, stand on sidewalks and in yards throughout the town, each painted in a different pattern. Dozens of them, no two alike. The town hosts Svensk Hyllningsfest every other October, a festival of Swedish music, food, and folk dancing. The Dala horse tradition dates back to at least the 17th century in Sweden, where woodcarvers carved horses as toys. In Lindsborg, they become a statement that this town knows exactly who it is. Park on Main Street and walk. Grab Swedish pastries at a local bakery. Yes, they're cardamom scented, and yes, you should get 2. From a Swedish village, we trade culture for mushrooms made of stone. 5. Mushroom Rock State Park, 5 acres. That's the entire state park. And yet, Mushroom Rock State Park is one of the 8 geological wonders of Kansas. The rocks are concretions, spheres of cemented calcium carbonate that formed inside the Dakota Formation sandstone. The largest measures 27 feet in diameter. Over millions of years, the softer sandstone eroded away, leaving these bizarre mushroom-shaped formations standing on narrow stems. The harder cap sits on top like a hat that's too big for its head. The largest one looks like a giant placed a boulder on a pencil and walked away. Fun fact, these formations have drawn visitors for centuries, including indigenous peoples who used the area long before it became a state park. 30 minutes maximum. 20 minutes from Lindsborg, a natural pairing. Late afternoon light is best, no entrance fee. From mushrooms of stone, we trade weird for stubborn beauty. 6. Flint Hills, Scenic Byway, the Flint Hills National Scenic Byway. 48 miles of K177 through the last remaining tallgrass prairie. And the reason this prairie still exists comes down to a single rock. Chert. Chert is a hard, flint-like stone that sits just below the surface. When settlers arrived with steel plows, the plows bounced. The chert broke every blade that tried to turn this soil into farmland. And because it couldn't be farmed, it couldn't be destroyed. The rock that made agriculture impossible is what preserved the last great prairie. Sometimes the most powerful conservation tool is a stone that refuses to cooperate. The drive is the experience, rolling hills, 360-degree vistas with nothing but grass moving in wind. On a windy day, the grass moves in waves that look like a green ocean. Humans have lived in the Flint Hills for over 13,000 years. The same chert that defeated the plow was prized by indigenous peoples for spear points. Take K177 from Council Grove to Cassaday. Pull off at the Pioneer Women's Pullout. Late May to early June, peak wildflower bloom. Fill your tank in Council Grove. From stubborn rock, we trade beauty for alien drama. 7. Castle Rock, Badlands. This is the one the intro promised. Castle Rock, a 70-foot chalk pinnacle standing alone in the Kansas Badlands, surrounded by carved gullies and white chalk formations that look like a miniature canyon land. Same Cretaceous chalk as Monument Rocks. Same vanished ocean, same ancient sea creatures compressed into stone. But where Monument Rocks stands in a cluster, Castle Rock stands alone. A single sentinel in a landscape that doesn't belong in Kansas. The surrounding Badlands are full of fossils. Not behind glass, in the ground. After rainstorms, fossils weather out of the chalk, shark teeth, fish scales, shells, occasionally the bones of marine reptiles that swam here when this was open ocean. You can pick up an 80-million-year-old fossil from the dirt. Fun fact, Castle Rock and Monument Rocks were jointly named one of the 8 wonders of Kansas, specifically because of their scientifically significant fossils. Go south of Quinter on dirt roads, impassable after rain. Do not attempt in a low-clearance vehicle. Zero shade. If you find a fossil, photograph it and leave it. Private land open by permission. From an ancient sentinel, we trade geology for a president's boyhood home. 8. Eisenhower Presidential Library. Abilene, Kansas. The boyhood home of Dwight D. Eisenhower, Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force in World War II, 34th President, and a kid who grew up in a house with 5 brothers and no indoor plumbing. The Eisenhower Presidential Library, Museum, and Boyhood Home tells the story of a man who went from Abilene to the world stage. The Boyhood Home is the actual house, the one the Eisenhower family lived in from 1898 until Dwight left for West Point in 1911. The museum traces his life from Kansas to D-Day to the presidency. Eisenhower is the only president to have served in both World War I and World War II. He never saw active combat in WW1, he was a logistics specialist, which is perhaps the least glamorous origin story for the man who would command the D-Day invasion. Planned 2 to 3 hours. The Boyhood Home Tour is guided and runs on a schedule. Abilene was a major cowtown in the 1870s worth exploring. From a president's home, we trade history for reborn earth. 9. Cimarron National Grassland. 108,000 acres in the extreme southwestern corner of Kansas. The driest, most remote, and most unlikely story of environmental resurrection you'll find anywhere. This land died. During the Dust Bowl of the 1930s, overgrazing and drought turned semi-arid grassland into dust that blackened skies across the Great Plains. On April 14, 1935, Black Sunday, a massive dust storm engulfed the southern plains. The federal government began buying up devastated land from farmers who couldn't give it away. That land became the Cimarron National Grassland. Today, 3 distinct ecosystems coexist here: shortgrass prairie, sand sage prairie, and riparian areas along the Cimarron River where cottonwood trees grow. The river, often dry on the surface, flows underground, a ghost river sustaining the cottonwoods from below. Fun fact, the national grasslands were literally born from the Dust Bowl. Their existence proves the land can break and the land can heal. The nearest town is Elkhart on the Oklahoma border. Bring everything you need. Spring and fall are best. Summer can exceed 100 degrees with no shade. From reborn Earth, we trade land for the cosmos itself. 10. Cosmosphere, Hutchinson, Kansas. The Cosmosphere, a Smithsonian-affiliated space museum that most people have never heard of, in a town most people have never visited, containing artifacts that most museums would trade their best exhibit for. A woman named Patty Carey started a planetarium in the 1960s with a used star projector. That planetarium grew into the Cosmosphere, and at some point, they acquired a real SR-71 Blackbird spy plane. Not a model. They erected the plane and then built the museum around it, which is the most Kansas approach to museum architecture imaginable. The Hall of Space holds SR-71, a Northrop T-38 Talon, and the Apollo 13 command module, Odyssey. The actual capsule, the one where carbon dioxide was building to lethal levels and engineers on the ground had to invent a filter adapter out of duct tape, a flight manual cover, and a plastic bag. That capsule is here, with scorch marks from re-entry still visible. Fun fact, the Cosmosphere is the only Smithsonian affiliate museum in Kansas, and it houses an Apollo 11 moon rock, meaning you can look at a piece of another world, then drive 20 minutes and see fossils 80 million years older than humanity. Plan 3 to 4 hours. Hutchinson is about an hour northwest of Wichita, fully air-conditioned, not a minor consideration in a Kansas summer. If this video changed how you see Kansas, hit like, subscribe for more unseen places, and comment on which spot you'd visit first. If this video made you laugh, dream, or scream road trip, you will love the next video. Click here. The next wonder is one click away.